So the story started out just like any other day. I mean, a lot of good stories do. Just a normal day, just like any other day, and our man was going grocery shopping, just getting the goods from the grocery store. And he goes into the grocery store, he gets his stuff, and he takes his stuff out back to the car. He's pushing the cart out to the grocery, or out from the grocery store. He puts his groceries away in his vehicle, and he put them in the back seat. Okay, he didn't put them in the trunk, put them in the back seat. And he's sitting in the driver's seat, and right as he's about to leave the grocery store, he hears this loud pop, and he feels this impact to the back of his head and pain, sharp pain at the back of his head. And just out of the blue, he's still conscious. He reaches his hand behind the back of his head, and he feels this wet, goopy substance dripping down the back of his head, right where that pain had been felt. And of course, as you may suspect, what goes through his head is, I've got to hold my brains in place. Can't make this up. He's thinking, I have to hold my brains in place. I don't know how I'm still conscious, but I got to hold my brains in place. Keep them from spilling out more from the back of my head. And then at that point, the guy noticed a smell, which is a funny thing to notice as you're about to die. But he notices a smell, and he says, something smells like dough? And he looks at his hand, and in his hand are Pillsbury biscuits that had exploded out of a can and hit him in the back of the head. It was a hot day, and the can had somehow popped open and jetted across the car from the back seat, not that far, jetted from the back seat and just happened to hit him in the back of the head. And he got some of the biscuit dough on him, and he was totally fine. But at first, in his shock and his surprise, he thought he'd been shot, because he's just sitting there minding his own business. He hears a loud pop, feels a sharp pain, reaches back instinctively and feels this goop. I mean, it was the biscuit dough, but he thought it was his own brains coming out, right? It's a funny story looking back. The reason I'm telling you this is because I need you to understand that your experience is not reality. A lot of you guys think you're living in reality. You're not. None of us are. You are living in your experience of it. For our man in the story, it's a true story, by the way. This guy in the story, for about 3 seconds, he was living in a reality where he was about to die, where he had just been shot in the back of the head for no reason, out of the blue, and he's literally about to die. That was the experience he was living in. But it wasn't really what happened. As a matter of fact, what happened was about $2.50 worth of lost biscuits and a funny story and a little cleanup. But it wasn't even close to a near-death experience. But that is what he was experiencing in that moment. I need you to understand that none of us are living in reality. We are all living in our experience of reality. And I need you to unpack with me, let me unpack for you what the problem with that really is. There's a lot of problems with it. A lot of us are not living in the correct experience. We all need to align our experience of reality closer to the real reality. A lot of us know the real reality in our minds, but we don't believe it in our hearts, in our spirits, and so we don't experience that in full. So let's talk about what happened with our guy, the biscuit shot, the biscuit shot to the back of the head, the biscuit blowout, if you will. What happened to this guy is reality happened. The heat, the weird biscuit packaging, whatever caused that. The can pops, part of it or all of it shoots out, hits him in the back of the head, and some biscuit dough remnants gets on the back of his head. That's what really happened in reality. But that is not what he experienced. For about 3 seconds, that is not what he experienced. Why? Why did he not experience in the moment what was really happening? If we can answer that question for him, we can answer it for you. I want you guys to catch this. There's a lot of you who know what your identity in Christ is. There's a lot of you who know the right things to do. You know you should eat better. You know you should work out more. You know you should read your Bible more. You know you should enjoy life more. You know you should approach women more. You even know what to say. You've watched videos on game and pickup. You know the stuff. And if you don't, you can ask ChatGPT. Okay? There's a lot of you guys who know what reality is or should be, but you're not experiencing it. Your experience is different. Your experience of reality is not reality itself. And sometimes when our experience of reality is so different, it can cause some major problems. People can start calling us delusional. What's somebody who's delusional is somebody who is not in reality. And none of us are fully. But the further away you get, the more problems you run into. Such as thinking you're about to die in your car when all that really happened is you lost a can of biscuits. Okay? So let's talk about why he did not experience reality. The sequence of events in your experience is this. You've got reality over here. Reality happens, but something happens to reality on its way to you. So this is reality coming at you. This is you over here. You're ready to receive it. Something happens right here. Reality is filtered through your perspective. What is your perspective? Your perspective is what you perceive. To see is your perspective. Somebody says, I need a new perspective. What they're saying is, I need to see this in a different way. And that could be a physical seeing, vision, or it could be a metaphorical seeing, vision, understanding. So as reality is coming at you, you do not experience it in full. You experience it through a filter of perspective. That filter is composed of two things. Honestly, three things. I was not going to say all three. I'll go ahead and say all three. If you're taking notes, these are some good ones to write down. If you're not, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, but maybe you should take notes. So reality happens first. It's going to come toward you, but you don't experience reality. What you experience is your interpretation of your perspective. What happens is it is filtered through your perspective. Your perspective, as I said, is composed of three things. Number one is what you are exposed to. Right now, if a bomb were to fall on the other side of this house, I wouldn't see it. I would hear it, and I would feel it, I'm sure, but I wouldn't see it because I don't have awareness or exposure to the other side of the house. So we only experience those parts of reality, number one, that we have exposure to, okay? There's a lot of things happening in the world right now as you watch this that are real, but you don't have exposure to, okay? And because you don't have any exposure to it, you can't really experience it. So exposure is one. Number two is attention. There's a lot of things happening around you right now that you do technically have exposure to, but your attention is not on those things. I'm sitting outside. I'm sure there are 2 to 3 bugs, within a foot of me right now, or a couple feet of me right now. If I could spot them and look at them with my attention, then I could experience them. But unless one of them bites me or flies across my field of view or something like that, I'm probably not going to put my attention on those bugs, even though I am exposed to them out here. Okay, so exposure first, then number 2, attention. For example, I just saw a lizard, right as I was saying that, I saw a lizard crawl across the concrete at the end of the patio here. And that was kind of a coincidence that my attention was in that direction, right? I could not have experienced what I was exposed to unless my attention was in that direction. So exposure and then attention. And then here's the third one, belief. Your perspective is influenced by what you are exposed to, by what you pay attention to, and thirdly, by what you believe. So let's talk about the biscuit boy, the biscuit blowout situation. He was exposed to the biscuit in the can hitting him in the back of the head. Now, he didn't see it, right? So he was not exposed to the fullness of that reality because he just heard it and felt it, right? So his perspective was limited. His exposure was limited. He was only exposed to the sense of touch and the sense of sound, and then eventually the sense of smell to help him kind of snap out of it. So his perspective of reality was limited at that point. And then his attention, he reaches back and touches, he kind of freezes up. As soon as he heard that sound, as soon as he felt that sting, his attention's focused on it fully, even though he didn't see what happened. And then here is where the belief comes in. Because whenever reality hits us, we only experience that which we're exposed to and that which we put our attention on. And then only that which we believe is possible. And this is really tricky. Hang with me. Hang with me. Why do you think that his immediate reaction was that he had been shot in the back of the head? Here's why. That is the only thing that he believed was possible. That is the only, or maybe the most likely thing that he believed was possible. His mind went to that because of his belief about the world. If I hear a loud pop and I feel a sharp pain and I reach back and I feel mush coming out of my head, I've been shot. That was what his past experience, his knowledge, his instinct believed about that scenario. So when you combine all that, he starts experiencing near death. He starts, his life flash before his eyes. He starts thinking about, do I drive myself to the hospital while holding my brains in? Do I call somebody? He's experiencing a near-death experience because his perspective has incorrectly filtered reality. If he would have believed, or if it would have entered his mental awareness that that pop was the same pop that a biscuit can makes when you pop it open, and that pain wasn't nearly harsh enough to be a bullet, and it doesn't make sense that he could be holding his brains in. If he were to couch all of that experience in those thoughts, then he might not have believed that getting shot was the most likely thing or the only possible explanation for his perceived experience, right? But that is why. His experience is incorrect because his perspective was both limited and also incorrect. I'm going to say that one more time. His experience of reality was wrong because his perspective was limited and corrupted. I think I'm going to say it one more time. His experience of reality was wrong because his perspective was limited and corrupted. as you guys can imagine, the same applies to you, the same applies to me. When we are not experiencing reality the right way, it is because our perspectives are either limited or corrupted or both, usually both. We have some kind of a false belief about what's possible. We have some kind of a limited, narrowed perspective on the reality itself, and thus cannot see things for what they are. If you have been stuck for a long time in some sort of a plateau in your life, and you can't seem to push past it, and you can't seem to figure out why, and you feel frustrated because you feel like you know all the right things to do. Maybe it's with dating and women. Maybe it's in a relationship you're in right now. Maybe it's something with your career, something with confidence, something with an addiction you're trying to get rid of, a bad habit you're trying to kick, a new habit you're trying to start, the gym, discipline, nutrition, spiritual growth, all of the above. You know what to do, but you can't bring yourself to do it. You know reality could be a certain way. You're aware of the power and freedom and identity you have through God and in Christ, but you feel like you're not experiencing that reality in full. You see other people that seem to have it figured out, like life just seems to go easily for them, and they're not even as smart as you, and things are just kind of happening for them, almost. And you're like, dude, what gives? Like, what's the point? Why do I even try when other people just have it easier and I can't seem to make it happen like I want to? If you feel like all the claims of God's power and freedom and identity in your life are a little bit too good to be true, and you feel guilty for even thinking that, and you're like, I know technically they're true, but I don't really feel them. I don't know how to walk them out. Then, my man, you are not experiencing that reality in full. And just like Biscuit Boy, it is your perspective that is limited and or corrupted. You're needing to experience reality in a way that you've not been able to, but your perspective is limiting and corrupting your ability to experience that reality. And it's because of your attention. I'm saying this in the wrong order, sorry. It's because of your exposure, what you're exposed to, your attention, what you're focused on, and your beliefs, what you believe is possible. The reason Biscuit Boy did not experience the biscuit is because he did not believe in that moment it was possible. Can you imagine his disbelief when he looks? He's like, what is this? Wait a minute, I don't have a hole in my head. Wait a minute, what's going on? Why does it smell like dough? And he turns around and it hits him. Oh my gosh, the biscuit can exploded. And he probably starts laughing hysterically because his beliefs shifted. In that one moment, a perspective shift allowed him to experience reality as it was, not as he believed it was. He went from near-death experience to hysterical laughter in a moment because his perspective changed in a moment. That can happen to you too. That can happen to you too. That is the only reason, in fact, that I am in business doing what I do. Is because the only way you can change as a man, there's three. There's only three ways you can change as a man. But there's only one way that you can really count on, and I'll explain what I mean. There's three ways you can change as a man: pain, pleasure, or perspective. You're not going to change unless the pain of your current situation exceeds the comfort of your current situation. You're not going to change unless the pleasure of a new situation exceeds the discomfort that change would bring. But the problem is most of us live just kind of okay/good lives. That is the most dangerous thing about the society that we live in. For those of you in Canada, the US, Western Europe, Australia, for those of you watching this in those ranges, and some of you in other parts of the world too, you're living a life of like just above good enough. Just above good enough. And that applies to your finances, it applies to your relationships, maybe not. A lot of y'all are single watching this. Maybe it applies to your fitness, your just life as a whole is like, it's like good enough or maybe a little above. And so you're never going to experience enough pain to push you into the next level. I mean, hopefully, right? I hope you don't. You're probably never going to experience enough pleasure or enough incentive in a positive way to really push you into the next level. That once in a lifetime, Gandalf, Narnia, you're a wizard, Harry opportunity, you're not going to experience that probably. That's in the movies. You're probably going to live your life and join the many headstones in the graveyard that have a name and 2 dates, and you just wonder, did they really experience life to the full? That's probably going to be you unless major pain comes into your life or major pleasure to incentivize you to change. As a matter of fact, if you think about all the big athletes, the CEOs, the celebrities, you look back in their life, there's usually some major pain that they would have never invited into their life. The third way you can change, and again, this is the only reason I have a job, is perspective. Just like with Biscuit Boy, in a moment, his perspective changed his experience of reality. It wasn't any big pain, it wasn't any big pleasure, but perspective changed his experience, and it can for you too. Perspective is that aha moment where something that's in your head sinks in, where something that you've known becomes something that you believe, or where your awareness opens up, your attention changes to something that changes your entire perspective, and thus your entire experience of reality shifts with that. I'm in the business of helping you change perspective, and so if you are ready to stop watching other guys seemingly who are not as smart as you and less hardworking just somehow do better, if you know what to do but there's something inside you that you can't seem to make it happen and you've been stuck that way for years, pain, pleasure, or perspective are your only 3 routes. And unless you want to wait around for a Hogwarts letter or a random terrible disease to change the course of your life, you might consider booking a call with me. You can check out my testimonials on Instagram at NarrowWayMan. Link is below to book a call. This is For the Boys, episode 56. I'll see you guys soon.